Lyra stood in the cold metal hallway of Ethereal Station and stared at the piece of paper in her hands. The words were simple, but they changed everything. Her grandmother Betty was dead, and she had left Lyra a spaceship. Lyra had always known. Her grandmother was different. Most humans lived for maybe 100 years if they were lucky. Betty had lived for almost 200 years. She had silver hair and bright blue eyes that sparkled when she told stories. She also had scars on her hands that she never talked about. Now Betty was gone, and Lyra felt lost. She was half human and half elf, which meant she did not fit in anywhere. Humans thought she was too strange with her pointed ears and green eyes. Elves thought she was too wild because of her human blood. Betty had been the only person who understood her. The lawyer, a thin man with nervous hands, led Lyra through the station to Docking Bay 7. "Your grandmother paid for the ship's parking fees for the next 50 years, he said. She was very specific about that. When the doors opened, Lyra saw her inheritance. The ship was beautiful and scary at the same time. It was black, like space. But when the light hit it, colors danced across its surface like oil on water. The ship looked like it could cut through anything. Bold letters on the side spelled out, "Wandering Star." "This cannot be real," Lyra whispered. The lawyer handed her a small device. "This is the key. Your grandmother said to tell you that some gifts come with surprises." He hurried away like he was afraid of the ship. Lyra walked up the ramp. The moment her feet touched the floor inside, lights came on everywhere. A woman's voice spoke from hidden speakers. "Welcome home, Lyra. I am Kate, the ship's computer. I have been waiting for you for 73 years, 4 months, and 16 days. Lyra jumped. "You can talk?" "Oh, yes. Your grandmother made sure I was very good at talking. She said you would need someone to explain things." Kate's voice was warm and friendly, like a favorite teacher. The inside of the ship was amazing. Everything was clean and new, but Lyra could tell it was also very advanced. The walls seemed to glow with their own light. Screens showed star maps that moved like living things. The pilot's chair looked like it was made for her exact size. "Kate, how old is this ship?" Lyra asked. "That is complicated. Your grandmother built me over many years. Some parts of me are new, some parts are very old, some parts should not exist yet." Lyra did not understand what that meant, but she kept walking. Kate showed her the kitchen, the bedroom, and a room full of machines she could not identify. Everything was perfect, like Betty had planned for Lyra to live here forever. "Your grandmother left something special for you in her room," Kate said. "She made me promise to wait until you were ready." "I think I'm ready now," Lyra said, even though she was not sure. Betty's room was small but comfortable. It smelled like the flowers from Earth that Betty used to grow. On the desk was a metal box with Lyra's name written on it in Betty's handwriting. Inside, the box was a crystal that glowed with blue light. Next to it was a folded piece of paper. Lyra opened the paper and read her grandmother's words. "My dear Lyra," the letter said, "if you are reading this, then I am gone and you are probably confused. Do not be scared, you are stronger than you know. The crystal contains a star map. It will show you a place called the Shadowmere Nebula. This place is dangerous. Every ship that has gone there has disappeared. The galaxy thinks it is cursed." Lyra's hand started to shake. "But I know something the galaxy does not know," the letter continued. "Humans do not break the same way other people do. We get stubborn when things get impossible. We get angry when things try to hurt us, and sometimes that is exactly what the universe needs." Lyra looked at the crystal. "Kate, what is Shadowmere?" The computer was quiet for a moment. "It is a place where ships go to die. 17 expeditions have tried to explore it. None came back. The last transmission was just screaming. And my grandmother wants me to go there. Your grandmother believed you could do what others could not. She spent years preparing this ship for that journey." Lyra picked up the crystal. The moment she touched it, the room filled with light. Star maps appeared in the air around her. She could see normal space with its safe trade routes and peaceful planets. But at the edge of the map was something else, a dark area marked with warnings in a dozen languages. Kate, show me the records from the last expedition to Shadowmere. The air filled with images. 17 beautiful ships, each one the pride of its species. Elven ships that looked like crystal flowers. Human ships built like metal fortresses. Ships from races Lyra had never seen before. All of them flying together toward the dark nebula. Then the images changed. The ships were twisted and broken, floating dead in space. The final recording was terrible. Voices screaming in languages she could not understand, but the fear was clear. Why would my grandmother want me to go to a place like that? Lyra asked. Kate's voice became serious. Because your grandmother Betty was not just an explorer. She was someone who fixed problems that no one else could fix. She went to places that killed other people and came back with answers. Lyra sat on Betty's bed and held the crystal. She thought about her grandmother's stories. Betty had always talked about impossible things like they were just puzzles waiting to be solved. She had flown through solar storms, escaped from pirates, and discovered planets that were supposed to be myths. Am I supposed to be like her? Lyra asked. You are already like her, Kate said softly. You have her courage and her stubbornness. You also have something she did not have. What? You have the ship she spent her whole life building for you. Lyra looked around the room again. Now she understood why everything felt so perfect. Betty had not just left her a ship, she had left her a weapon designed to do impossible things. Kate, if we go to Shadowmere, will we come back? I do not know, Kate said honestly. But I know your grandmother believed we would do more than just come back. She believed we would succeed where everyone else failed. Lyra folded the letter and put it in her pocket. She was scared, but she was also curious. The crystal felt warm in her hands, like it was alive. Show me how to fly this ship, she said. 3 days later, Lyra sat in the pilot's chair and stared at the star map floating in front of her. The route to Shadowmere was marked in red, like a warning. Every part of her elven mind told her this was a terrible idea. But something deeper, something that came from her human grandmother, told her to go anyway. Kate, are you sure this ship can handle what we will find out there? Lyra asked. Your grandmother designed me specifically for this mission, Kate replied. Every part of this ship has been tested and improved over 70 years, but I will not lie to you, Lyra. What we are about to do has never been done before. Lyra took a deep breath and pressed the button that would start their journey. The wandering star moved away from the station smoothly and quietly. Soon, they were flying through normal space toward the edge of the galaxy where Shadowmere waited. For the first 2 weeks, everything seemed normal. They passed trade ships and passenger vessels. They saw planets with cities that sparkled like jewels. Kate told Lyra stories about Betty's adventures while teaching her how to use the ship's advanced systems. Your grandmother once flew us into a star to escape from pirates, Kate said. Most people would have been burned alive. Betty just laughed and asked me to play her favorite Earth song louder. How did she survive flying into a star? Lyra asked. The same way we will survive Shadowmere. This ship does not follow the same rules as other ships. Lyra was starting to understand what Kate meant. The wandering star did things that should have been impossible. When they flew through an asteroid field, the ship seemed to know where. Every rock was before it appeared on the sensors. When they had to avoid a patrol ship, the hull changed color until they were nearly invisible.
Kate, what kind of technology is this? Your grandmother learned from many different species during her travels. She took the best ideas from everyone and made them work together. But she also added something that only humans have. What is
that? The refusal to accept that something cannot be done. As they got closer to Shadowmere, they started seeing the first signs of danger. Pieces of broken ships floated in space like metal snow. Some of the pieces were very old. Others looked like they had been destroyed recently. Kate, scan those ship fragments. What species did they belong to? The computer was quiet for a moment. I am detecting materials from at least 12 different species. Some of these ships are thousands of years old. Others are from expeditions that disappeared in the last century. Lyra felt cold. How many ships have been destroyed here? Based on the debris field, I estimate several hundred vessels have been lost in this region over the past 3,000 years. They flew deeper into the area around Shadowmere. The space here felt wrong somehow. Stars that should have been bright looked dim and distant. The ship's instruments gave readings that did not make sense. Sometimes the navigation computer said they were moving forward, but it felt like they were falling. "This is the edge of the nebula," Kate announced. "From here we enter the region where ships disappear." Lyra looked at the main screen. Ahead of them was a wall of dark clouds that seemed to move on their own. Lightning flashed inside the clouds, but it was not normal lightning. It was green and purple and colors that hurt to look at. "Kate, show me the debris field again." The screen changed to show the broken ships they had passed. Lyra studied them carefully. She saw the remains of elven vessels with their beautiful crystal hulls cracked like eggshells. Human ships built like fortresses were twisted into impossible shapes. Ships from species she did not recognize were scattered like toys. But as she looked closer, she noticed something strange. "Kate, look at how these ships were destroyed. It is not like they were hit by weapons or crashed into something." "You are correct. The damage patterns suggest the ships were pulled apart by some kind of force that worked from the inside out. Like, something got inside them and broke them from within. That is one possibility." Lyra made her decision. "Take us into the nebula." The moment they crossed into the dark clouds, everything changed. The ship began to shake, but not from any external force. It felt like the wandering star was fighting against something invisible. Alarms started ringing, but then they stopped suddenly. "Kate, what just happened?" "The nebula attempted to interfere with our systems, but your grandmother's modifications are working. We are adapting to the hostile environment." Lyra watched in amazement as the ship changed around her. Parts of the hull shifted and reformed. The engines made new sounds as they adjusted to the strange physics inside the nebula. Even the air felt different. "Kate, is the ship alive?" "Not alive in the way you understand life. But your grandmother gave me the ability to learn and change. Right now, I am learning how to survive in an environment that kills other ships." They flew deeper into the nebula. The dark clouds pressed against the ship like they were trying to get inside. Strange lights moved past the windows. But when Lyra tried to focus on them, they disappeared. "Kate, I am seeing things that are not there. The nebula affects perception. It shows people their fears and desires. Do not trust anything you see outside the ship." But Lyra could not help looking. For a moment she thought she saw her grandmother standing in the clouds waving at her. Then she saw her elven mother, who had died when Lyra was young. The figures looked so real that Lyra reached toward the window. "Lyra, step away from the window," Kate said sharply. "Those are not real people, they are traps." Lyra pulled her hand back. "What kind of place is this?" "A place that feeds on minds. But your grandmother prepared us for this. Look at the sensor readings." Lyra looked at the screens. While other ships had been torn apart by the nebula's strange forces, the wandering star was getting stronger. The hull was becoming more solid. The engines were running better than they had outside the nebula. "We are not just surviving," Lyra realized. "We are thriving." Exactly. Your grandmother understood something that other explorers did not. Sometimes the best way to fight something impossible is to become impossible yourself. They flew for hours through the swirling darkness. Lyra saw more debris, more broken dreams floating in space. But she also saw something else. Far ahead, barely visible through the clouds, was a light. "Kate, what is that?" "I am not certain, but based on your grandmother's notes, I believe we have found what we came here to find. The source of whatever has been destroying ships?" "Yes. And according to Betty's research, it has been waiting for us." The light grew brighter as they approached. Soon, Lyra could see that it was not just a light. It was a structure, a massive space station that looked like it had been built from the nightmares of 1,000 different species. "Kate, how big is that thing?" "Approximately the size of a small moon. And Lyra, it is scanning us." Lyra felt something touch her mind. It was cold, and ancient, and hungry. For a moment she was terrified. But then she remembered her grandmother's letter. Humans do not break the same way other people do. Let it. Scan us, Lyra said. I want to know what it finds. The presence in her mind grew stronger. She could feel it expecting to find fear and despair, the emotions it had fed on for thousands of years. Instead, it found something that confused it. It found curiosity mixed with stubbornness. It found the human refusal to give up even when everything seemed hopeless. Kate, I think we just surprised something that has not been surprised in a very long time. Your grandmother would be proud, Kate said. Now, shall we introduce ourselves properly? The space station hung in front of them like a metal mountain. Lyra had never seen anything so big or so frightening. Its surface was covered with towers and spires that twisted in ways that hurt her eyes. Parts of the station seemed to move, on their own, shifting and changing like it was breathing. Kate, what am I looking at? According to your grandmother's research, this is the source of the Shadowmere phenomenon. It has been here for at least 3,000 years, possibly much longer. What does it do? It feeds on consciousness. It draws ships into the nebula, then harvests the minds of their crews. Every thought, every memory, every emotion becomes food for the entity that lives inside that station. Lyra felt sick. How many people has it killed? Based on the debris we have seen, probably millions. Entire expeditions, whole fleets have disappeared into this place. The massive station began to turn toward them. Lyra could see openings in its hull that looked like mouths. Lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that seemed almost like a heartbeat. It knows we are here, Lyra said. Yes. And it is curious about us. No ship has ever gotten this close without being destroyed. Suddenly, Lyra felt something reach into her mind. It was like cold fingers pushing through her thoughts. The presence was ancient and powerful and very hungry. It had been feeding for so long that it had forgotten what it was like to be truly full. The entity expected to find what it always found in the minds of its victims: fear, despair, the knowledge that death was coming and there was nothing that could stop it. Instead, it found something that confused it completely. Lyra was afraid, but she was also angry. The thought of all those people who had died here made her furious. And underneath the anger was something the entity had never encountered before. It was the human part of her mind, the part that came from her grandmother, Betty. What is this? The voice echoed inside Lyra's head. It sounded like 1,000 different people speaking at once. You should be terrified. You should be begging for mercy. Why do you feel the defiance? Because my grandmother taught me that some things need to be stopped, Lyra said out loud. And you are one of them. The entity's confusion grew. It reached deeper into her mind, trying to understand what it was facing. It saw Lyra's memories of Betty, an old human woman who had lived far longer than she should have, who had flown into danger again and always come back with impossible stories. Your grandmother, the entity whispered. She was here, before. Not in body, but in spirit. I felt her touch on the ships that came seeking this place. She was preparing for this moment. Kate, Lyra said, what did my grandmother do? She studied every expedition that came to Shadowmere. She analyzed their failures. She learned how the entity operated. Then she spent 70 years building a ship that could not just survive this place, but fight back. The entity's presence, in Lyra's mind, became angry. No one fights me. I am ancient beyond your understanding. I have consumed the thoughts of beings who ruled star systems when your species was still learning to make fire. That's nice, Lyra said. But you've never met a human before, have you? The truth was, the entity had not. Humans were a young species barely noticed by the ancient powers of the galaxy. They were considered weak and short-lived, not worth the attention of beings like the entity in the station. But Betty had known that humanity's youth was actually their strength. They had not learned to accept that some things were impossible. They had not developed the cosmic fear that older species carried. When faced with something that should have destroyed them, humans had a tendency to get stubborn instead of scared. The entity launched its first real attack. Waves of psychic energy crashed against the wandering star, trying to break through the ship's defenses and tear Lyra's mind apart. This was the same attack that had destroyed hundreds of ships before. But the wandering star did something no other ship had ever done. Instead of trying to resist the attack, it absorbed it. The ship's hull began to glow with the same energy the entity was using as a weapon. "Kate, what is happening?" "Your grandmother built me to turn the entity's power against itself. The more it attacks us, the stronger we become." The entity felt its own energy being twisted and reflected back at it. For the first time in thousands of years, it felt something like pain. But worse than the pain was the emotion that came with it. Doubt. "This is impossible," the entity said, but its voice was no longer as confident as before. "Impossible is just another word for something no one has figured out yet," Lyra replied, remembering one of Betty's favorite sayings. The entity tried different attacks. It sent illusions that showed Lyra her worst fears. It tried to convince her that she was already dead and just did not know it yet. It reached into her memories and tried to turn them into weapons against her. But every attack failed in the same way. Where other species would have broken under the assault, Lyra got more determined. The part of her that was human refused to accept defeat, even when defeat seemed certain. "Kate, I think it's scared," Lyra said. "Your grandmother predicted this would happen. The entity has never faced a mind that responds to fear with anger. It does not know how to handle you." The massive station began to move toward them. Its weapon systems powered up, preparing to destroy the ship physically since psychic attacks were not working. "Kate, does this ship have weapons?" "Oh yes. Your grandmother was very thorough." The ship's hull opened to reveal weapons that Lyra had never seen before. They were not normal ship weapons. They looked like they were designed to fight things that existed more in thought than in reality. "What do these weapons do?" "They fire concentrated human stubbornness," Kate said with what sounded like pride. "Your grandmother called them reality anchors. They force things to follow the laws of physics whether they want to or not." The entity fired first. Beams of pure darkness shot from the station, each one capable of erasing a ship from existence. The wandering star dodged them with impossible grace, moving in ways that seemed to ignore gravity and momentum. Lyra fired back. The reality anchors struck the station and something amazing happened. The parts of the structure that had been shifting and changing suddenly became solid and normal. The impossible geometry straightened out. The station began to look like what it really was under all the psychic camouflage. "It's just a machine," Lyra realized. "A very big, very old machine, but still just a machine." "Exactly. Your grandmother believed that most cosmic horrors are just ancient technology that people are afraid to understand." The entity's voice in her mind became desperate. "You do not understand what you are doing. I am necessary. I maintain the balance. Without me, this region of space will become unstable." "Maybe," Lyra said. "But that's not your choice to make anymore." She fired again, this time aiming for what looked like the station's power source. The reality anchor struck home, and suddenly, the entire structure began to change. The darkness that had surrounded it for thousands of years started to fade, and, in that fading darkness, Lyra saw something that took her breath away. The station was not alone. Around it, like sleeping giants, were the hulks of ships. But these ships were not destroyed. They were preserved, kept in perfect condition by the entity's power. "Kate, are those ships intact?" Scanning now. Yes, they appear to be fully functional. The entity was not destroying the ships, it was collecting them. Along with their crews? Unknown. But if your grandmother was right about how this entity operates, the crews might still be alive. Trapped in a kind of psychic sleep, but alive. Lyra looked at the station with new understanding. The entity was not just a predator. It was a collector. It had been gathering ships and crews for thousands of years, preserving them like trophies. "We're not just here to destroy it," she realized. "We're here to free everyone it has captured." The entity's voice became pleading. "You cannot do this. If you free them, if you destroy my collection, I will have nothing. I will be nothing." "Then maybe it's time to find a new purpose," Lyra said, and prepared to fire the final shot. The entity's attacks became wild and desperate. It threw everything it had at the wandering star, but nothing worked the way it was supposed to. Lyra could feel its panic growing as each weapon failed to break her human stubbornness. Kate, show me all the weapon systems my grandmother built into this ship. Are you sure? Some of them are quite extreme. Show me everything. The ship's interface changed, revealing weapons that made Lyra's eyes widen. There were reality bombs that could force unstable space to follow normal physics. There were consciousness scramblers that could confuse psychic entities. And at the bottom of the list was something called the Betty Special. What does the Betty Special do? Lyra asked. Your grandmother never told me exactly. She just said to use it when everything else failed and we needed to remind the universe who was in charge. The entity launched another wave of attacks. This time it did not try to destroy Lyra's mind. Instead, it tried to trap her in illusions so perfect that she would never know they were fake. Suddenly, Lyra was standing in her childhood home. Her mother was there, alive and smiling. Her elven relatives welcomed her with open arms. Betty was young again, offering to teach her how to fly among the stars. Everything was perfect and peaceful and safe. This is what you really want, the entity whispered. A place where you belong, a family that loves you. Why fight for a cold, dangerous galaxy when you could have this? For a moment, Lyra almost believed it. The illusion felt so real that she could smell her mother's favorite flowers. But then she noticed something wrong. In this perfect world, there were no adventures, no mysteries to solve, no impossible things to attempt. This is not what I want, Lyra said. This is what you think I should want. She reached out and touched the wall of her childhood home. Her hand passed right through it. My grandmother did not raise me to hide from the universe. She raised me to fix it when it was broken. The illusion shattered like glass. Lyra was back on the ship, but now she understood something important. The entity did not really understand how humans thought. It had studied thousands of species, but humans were too new, too strange for it to comprehend. Kate, I think I know how to beat this thing. How? By being human. By being exactly the kind of person my grandmother wanted me to be. Lyra took manual control of the ship and flew straight at the massive station. The entity's weapons fired at her, but she dodged them all with moves that should have been impossible. The wandering star danced between energy beams and missile attacks like it was playing a game. This is insane, the entity said. You are flying directly into my strongest defenses. You will be destroyed. Maybe, Lyra said. But maybe not. That's the thing about humans. We try things even when we don't know if they will work. She fired the reality anchors again, this time at the station's defensive systems. Each hit caused more of the impossible technology to become normal and understandable. The entity's weapons began to malfunction as they were forced to follow the laws of physics. Kate, can you scan the preserved ships? Are there life signs? Yes. Thousands of them. The crews are alive but trapped in some kind of stasis field. If we can disrupt the field, they should wake up. Then let's wake them up. Lyra flew closer to the station. She could see the preserved ships more clearly now. There were vessels from every species in the galaxy, elven exploration ships with their crystal hulls still sparkling, human research vessels built like moving fortresses, ships from species she had never heard of, their design strange and beautiful. The entity tried one more desperate attack. It reached into Lyra's mind and showed her exactly what it was. An ancient being that had been alone for so long that it had forgotten how to exist without feeding on others. It had started as an explorer, like her, but had become something terrible when its loneliness grew too great to bear. I do not want to be evil, the entity said, but I am so alone. These minds I collect are the only company I have. If you free them, I will have nothing. For the first time, Lyra felt sorry for the creature. Then come with us, she said. Join the galaxy instead of hiding from it. I cannot. I am too different, too dangerous. My grandmother used to say that being different was just another word for being useful in a new way. The entity was quiet, for a moment. Your grandmother was a wise woman, but I have done terrible things. The galaxy will never forgive me. Then help us fix what you broke. Help us free the people you captured. Prove that you want to change. And if I do this, What happens to me? I don't know, Lyra said honestly, but isn't it better to find out than to stay trapped here forever? The entity made its decision. The massive station stopped attacking. Its weapons powered down, and slowly, carefully, it began to release the stasis fields that held the captured ships. All around them, lights began to flicker on. Engines that had been silent for centuries rumbled to life. Communication channels filled with confused voices speaking in dozens of languages. "This is Captain Roberts of the exploration ship New Dawn," came one voice. "What? Where are we? How long have we been here?" "This is Commander Yuki of the Elven vessel Starsong. We were investigating reports of missing ships. What happened to us?" More voices joined in as ship after ship came back to life. Crews that had been trapped for decades or even centuries began to realize they were free. "Kate, can you translate for everyone? Explain what happened?" "Already working on it," Kate replied. "I am broadcasting on all frequencies in every known language." The entity's voice came into Lyra's mind one last time. "Thank you," it said. "I had forgotten what hope felt like." But freeing the ships was only the beginning. As the stasis fields collapsed, the entity that had maintained them began to weaken. The massive station started to shake and crack. Systems that had run for thousands of years began to fail. "Kate, the station is breaking apart. What about the entity?" "Unknown. It may not survive without the technology that has kept it alive for so long." Lyra made another decision that her grandmother would have been proud of. She flew the Wandering Star to the station's docking bay. "Kate, can we take the entity with us?" "Theoretically, yes, but it would mean allowing an incredibly powerful psychic being onto our ship. My grandmother designed this ship to handle impossible things. I think she would have planned for this too." The station's hull cracked open like an egg. Inside, Lyra could see the entity for the first time. It was not the monster she had expected. It looked like a person made of light and shadow, beautiful and sad and very, very old. "Come on," Lyra said, opening the ship's airlock. "Let's get you out of here." The entity hesitated. "I could still be dangerous. I might not be able to control my power." "Then we'll figure it out together. That's what humans do. We solve problems by trying things until something works." The entity flowed onto the ship like living starlight. The moment it was aboard, Lyra felt its presence differently. It was not the cold, hungry thing she had first encountered. Now it felt curious and hopeful and desperately grateful. "Thank you," it said. "I promise I will try to be worthy of this chance." Around them, the freed ships were forming up into a convoy. Captains who had been lost for centuries were talking to each other, sharing stories and trying to understand what had happened to them. Kate set course for the nearest inhabited system. "I think it's time we introduced our new friend to the galaxy." As the Wandering Star led the convoy of rescued ships away from the dying station, Lyra felt proud of what they had accomplished. But she also knew this was just the beginning. Her grandmother had left her more than just a ship. She had left her a mission to fix the broken things in the galaxy, and there were a lot of broken things still waiting to be fixed. The convoy of rescued ships flew through space like a parade of miracles. Lyra watched them from the bridge of the Wandering Star and felt amazed by what they had done. Ships that had been lost for centuries were now free, their crews alive and eager to return home. The entity, who had decided to call itself Echo, sat quietly in the corner of the bridge. It had taken a form that looked almost human, but made of soft light instead of flesh. Echo was still learning how to exist without feeding on other minds. "I can hear their thoughts," Echo said sadly. "Some of them are afraid of me. They remember being trapped." "Give them time," Lyra said. "Fear fades when people see you're trying to help." "Your grandmother would have said the same thing," Kate added. She believed anyone could change if they really wanted to. 3 weeks later, they reached the first inhabited system. The convoy had grown along the way as other ships joined them, drawn by the incredible story of what had happened at Shadowmere. When they arrived at New Geneva Station, thousands of people were waiting to greet the ships that had been lost. Lyra watched families reunite with loved ones they thought were dead. She saw captains reporting to admiralties that had given up hope decades ago. She saw Echo quietly helping people whose minds had been damaged by their long captivity, gently healing the wounds it had helped create. But the biggest surprise came when Admiral Martinez, the head of the Human Defense Force, asked to speak with her privately. "Miss Moonwhisper," the admiral said when they met in his office, "what you have accomplished is remarkable. But I need to ask you something important. Did your grandmother ever tell you about the Guardian Initiative?" "No." "What is that?" The admiral activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. Red dots marked dangerous areas where ships had been lost or where ancient threats still existed. "Your grandmother Betty was part of a secret program," he explained. "We call it the Guardian Initiative. For the past 200 years, humans have been identifying cosmic threats and finding ways to neutralize them. Betty was one of our best agents." Lyra stared at the map. There were dozens of red dots scattered across known space. "There are more places like Shadowmere?" "Many more. Ancient machines that destroy planets, psychic storms that drive entire species insane, beings that consider themselves gods and treat other life forms as toys. The galaxy is full of old, dangerous things that most species are too afraid to confront." "And humans are not afraid?" "Admiral," Martinez smiled. "Oh, we're afraid. But we've learned that being afraid and being paralyzed are two different things. Fear can make you careful. It can make you prepared. But it should never make you give up." He handed her a data crystal similar to the one Betty had left. "This contains information about other Guardian agents, humans and their descendants scattered across the galaxy, each one working to solve problems that others consider impossible." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because your grandmother recommended you for the program before she died. She said you had the perfect combination of human, stubbornness and elven wisdom, and after what you did at Shadowmere, I think she was right." Lyra looked at the crystal, then at the map with all its dangerous red dots. "What exactly does a Guardian do?" "Whatever needs to be done. Some Guardians are explorers who map dangerous regions. Others are diplomats who negotiate with hostile alien intelligences. Some are engineers who build impossible devices. And some, like you, are problem solvers who go to places that kill other people and find ways to fix them. And if I say yes, then you keep the Wandering Star and continue your grandmother's work. Kate has been programmed with the locations of other Guardian agents and the threats they're monitoring. You would have support when you need it, but mostly, you would work alone." Lyra thought about Echo, who was still learning to be good instead of dangerous. She thought about all the rescued crews who had been given their lives back. She thought about her grandmother Betty, who had spent 200 years making the galaxy a safer place. "I need to ask my companions what they think," she said. Later, back on the ship, Lyra explained the Guardian Initiative to Kate and Echo. "This is what your grandmother was preparing you for," Kate said. "Every modification she made to this ship, every story she told you, every lesson she taught you was leading to this moment." "And what do you think, Echo?" Lyra asked. The entity was quiet for a long moment. "I have spent thousands of years being a threat to the galaxy. Perhaps it is time I helped protect it instead. If you will have me, I would like to join this Guardian Initiative. You want to be a Guardian? I want to be useful. I want to help fix the damage I have caused. And I want to learn what it means to be good instead of just powerful." Lyra made her decision. "Kate, send a message to Admiral Martinez. Tell him the Wandering Star accepts the mission." "Already done," Kate replied with what sounded like satisfaction. "I took the liberty of assuming you would say yes. Your grandmother was right about you." The next morning, they said goodbye to the convoy of rescued ships. Each captain thanked Lyra for their freedom. Some offered to join her crew, but she politely declined. The Guardian Initiative worked best with small, fast ships that could go unnoticed. As they prepared to leave, Echo made an announcement that surprised everyone. "I have been thinking about the Shadowmere system," Echo said. "Now that the station is gone, the nebula is clearing. Underneath all that darkness is a star system rich with rare minerals and energy sources. It could power civilizations for thousands of years." "You want to give it to the galaxy?" Lyra asked. I want to give it to the species whose people I imprisoned. Let them build something good where something terrible used to exist. Admiral Martinez called it the most generous act of restitution in galactic history. Plans were already being made to turn the Shadowmere system into a research station where different species could work together. As the wandering star departed from New Geneva Station, Kate activated the ship's new mission protocols. The holographics display showed their next destination, a rogue planet where an ancient AI had been sending distress signals for the past 50 years. Our first official Guardian mission, Lyra said. Actually, it's your second, Kate corrected. Shadowmere was your first. Your grandmother left detailed files about it in my memory banks. She always intended for that to be your qualifying mission. She planned everything, didn't she? Your grandmother was a remarkable woman. She spent 70 years preparing for the day when she would have to pass her responsibilities to someone else. She chose well. Lyra settled into the pilot's chair and studied the information about their next mission. The rogue planet was home to an AI that claimed to be the last survivor of extinct civilization. It had been alone for thousands of years and was reportedly going insane from isolation. Sounds like another impossible problem, she said. The best kind, Echo replied. Impossible problems are the only ones worth solving. As they flew toward their next adventure, Lyra found a final message from her grandmother in the ship's personal files. My dear Lyra, Betty's recorded voice said. If you are hearing this, then you have accepted the responsibility I always hoped you would. The galaxy is full of wonders and terrors in equal measure. Your job is not to eliminate the terrors, but to find ways for wonders and terrors to coexist peacefully. Remember that every problem has a solution, even if the solution has never been tried before. Remember that being afraid is normal, but being paralyzed by fear is a choice. And remember that the best weapon against any cosmic horror is a human who refuses to give up. The universe is vast and strange and dangerous, but it is also beautiful and full of possibilities. Your job is to make sure the possibilities win. I love you, sweetheart. Now go make your grandmother proud. Lyra wiped away a tear and smiled. Through the ship's windows, the stars stretched out before them in all directions. Somewhere among those stars were problems that needed solving, threats that needed neutralizing, and impossible things that needed to be made possible. The wandering star flew on through the darkness, carrying its crew of problem solvers toward whatever impossible challenge awaited them next. Behind them, the Shadowmere system began its transformation from a graveyard into a garden. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited with all its wonders and terrors. And somewhere in the space between stars, Betty Chen's granddaughter continued the work of making the universe a little bit safer for everyone who called it home. After all, that's what Guardians do. They guard the galaxy against the darkness, one impossible problem at a time.